Right. Good morning, V8 veteran fans. St. Pete's, damn. It's a hell of a track. Definitely, yeah, definitely a challenging one. Not much of a flow track for a street circuit. I know it sounds a bit clunky, most street circuits aren't, but yeah, it's a little difficult to get a flow and a rhythm here, but yeah, definitely a lot of laps will be key to consistency, I think. Um, you can generate one lap pace, and it's not too bad. But being able to make that repeatable, that'll be the big challenge. So anyway, we'll play our lap through. Um, yeah, we'll do a review. And that's a lap. So it was a 13.38. First time on this track. First time. Uh, yeah, first time on this track. Set up everything. So pretty happy with that. It took, I don't know, took 20 odd laps to get there, but it wasn't too bad. A few mistakes on the lap. Um, so it's definitely, I think Wayne's done a 13.0. It's definitely, yeah, definitely a 12 in it, in my opinion. But you have to have everything aligned. And like I said, plenty of laps just to get the consistency. Obviously qualifying is going to be massively important here, but uh, you know, race lap consistency and that consistent speed, no mistakes or minimal mistakes will yield a big result. So definitely focus on that. But look, we'll do the walkthrough. Um, so down into yeah, look down into turn one. There's two lines there, so I'm pretty much braking uh, just on the back end of those lines, so getting in towards the 500 board, but probably can break into that deep, but at the moment not there, so just need to build up to it. But yeah, look, braking just past those yellow lines, the two blend lines or the taxi lines for the runway. um, Plenty of pedal pressure. Bit of a weird braking zone. There's not a lot of grip. Um, so yeah, it's easy to pinch a brake. But yeah, good amount of pressure. As you can see, I'm just a little bit of modulation when I first hit the pedal, just so I don't lock a brake. White lines everywhere, so I'm not really sure what sort of impact they have at the moment, but white lines aren't usually a good thing. So yeah, just try and make sure you're trailing out towards the back end of the stop and get the car rotated in. Now I'm a bit wide here, not terribly, but really probably just want to be on the curb a little bit here. So I've probably just turned the car in just a little bit late. But yeah, get up on the curb and really kind of you want to square it up back across this curb. So you want to try and just get nice and tight here. Reason being, if you're shooting out here, you're going to make this next section really tight. So you kind of want to square the car up and get the car shooting out this way. As best you can. That's a bit exaggerated, but if you get my drift, you can kind of see my car's pointing to go towards the middle of the track. I probably just want to be a little bit three-quarter. So if we play it through, you just see it's not awful, but probably another half a car or a quarter of a car to the right would just make this next section a little bit easier. So I short shift to fourth here, and then really just 50-50 the curb. A little bit of hop on the exit. And again, so if you go back to, excuse me, if you go back to here, so if you just that quarter of a car further over, when you rotate the car back in, you can turn in probably just a little bit later and get the car shooting a little bit more this direction as opposed to where I'm going. Not massive, but does make a difference. So fourth gear over the curb, just balance the throttle nicely here. You want to get the car nicely back to the left. And again, because I was just a bit narrow through that left-hander, it just puts you a little bit wide on the exit, which puts you a bit narrow here. So it all kind of flows through. So you want to open up everything you can to maximize your exits as best you can. So out nice and close, mid three-quarter track, if you can get a little bit more width out of it, which again you gain by squaring this up. So if you can square that up a little bit, then you're going to have a little bit of a nicer run from that point. You're not trying to fight the car too hard back to the left. But you can see I start turning the car back in fairly early. So, I'm already turning the car into this next right-hander at this point. So just consistent on the steering wheel, nice and close to the wall, and just consistent throttle through here. It's the kind of corner that if you feel like you can't get on the throttle, and then as soon as you come out here, you're like, oh shit, I'm mid-track, I could have been on the throttle heaps earlier. So really find that limit early because it does make a bit of a difference down through here. And, if you've got a bit of understeer in it as well as it's coming through here, just play with that throttle. Don't get aggressive on the brake, maybe a little bit of, just a little, 5% trail just to put a bit of weight on the nose, but try and drive the car on the rear as best you can through here. Out towards the wall, certainly from a race sense, sorry, buddy's scratching me nose here. Certainly from a race sense, what's this, Newcastle, McLaughlin v Lowndes, wall juts out twice here. So if you're racing and for some untoward reason you're side by side with someone through here, which will bound to happen, if you're the outside car, you just want to make sure that you position yourself early with enough clearance to get through there. You got two cars side by side and you just run out right to the wall side by side. Old mate ain't going to give you that much space, potentially, to get back. So just food for thought. If you are the outside car here, position yourself nicely so that you don't have to turn back to the right to get back. Because obviously, if you come off this wall and you've got a car beside you, both of you are probably going to end up in the fence. But yeah, once you're clear, get the car back over as tight as you can. At around about that 400 board, pretty decent brake application here. Really easy to lock a right front. Just I'd say it's the lines that maybe generate this as an issue. And obviously there's a bit of painted line again. But yeah, nice and hard on the brake, down through the gears. So get to second gear and turn in fairly early here. So I'm looking to use a lot of curb here. I did not use enough curb here. But, I made contact where the line is, where the time mark is, but you really want to kind of shoot off of here a little bit narrower. So whether that means turning the car in a bit later to square that up is probably the case. So, brake a little bit further, turn the car in a bit later and square this up. But you want to get back on the throttle nice and hard and back across. I don't think it matters if I do these in the morning or at night. Still fucking yawn. Get it back across to the right as best you can so that you can open up this next bit. Now you want to get the car up on top of the curb and just kind of see if you can hook the tyres on the inside. You don't want to get the tyres onto the asphalt here. The curb's way too big, the car's too low. It just grinds on it. And then as it pops off the curb here, it just bounces up and you'll have no steer. Yeah, terrible way to get through there. So definitely focus on getting nice and smooth up on top of it. And not too much throttle so that you can get the car turned back down pretty tight here. And then start feeding the throttle in. Now, you get up on the limiter. Don't run too tight here. Open this section up, okay? Don't shoot in here. If you want to shoot in here, it's going to make this next one really tight. So the more that you can open this entire section up, the better it'll be. So run it in on the limiter. You could go to a third. You could go to third if you want. But I feel like the less downshifting you can do, the better, in my opinion. But third may be the option. You will gain a little bit if you can stop the car well enough. It'll be a fine option. But yeah. So second gear for me on this lap. Still finding my feet. So things will evolve through the week. Right out to the wall. So you want to again open this entire section up. Now I don't know if it's just my field of view or what, but I feel like I'm on the wall there. Yeah, I feel like I'm right on. You can't see it, but I'm not. So there's a little bit of an opportunity there. Now you just see it's a smooth radius, and then it gets a bit tighter here. So you just want to try and the line is pretty good. Just try and get it as tight as you can on that wall. Again, nice and early on the throttle once the car rotates. Now I go to third gear into this next corner. Focusing on the exit. Again, very early days, not a lot of laps. But I kind of feel like it helps me get off the corner a little bit. So again, out to the wall nicely. You can see I get on the brakes and go up a gear. Different, but whatever. You could probably carry second a little bit further and then short shift at the apex or something. But you do pick up the throttle quite early here. You see basically already picking the throttle up there. Nice and tight in here, so that maximise this. I think from the onboard you heard just a little click of the wall. It wasn't 0x, it's nothing, but obviously it's a fine line. Yeah, just risk management, figure out where you want the car to be, but yeah, a little bit too tight. And the reason I was tight there is because I kind of felt like I was wide at the previous one, so I really wanted to maximise it here. So third gear, so you can see you can really start picking up the throttle early and hard. So once the car's sort of settled off the curb, I know that it's still rotating. I'm not going to hit the outside wall, except for a little kiss on the guard and a bit of mirror work. But get back to that throttle as soon as you can, and position yourself very quickly here to the right. Don't come out and sort of dawdle around mid-track. Get back over to the right because this left-hander comes up real quick. So you want to get the car over to the right-hand wall as quickly as you can, as well as you can, and then certainly this is the probably most intense part of the track. And as the tyre wears, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it goes through here. But yeah, definitely pitch the car in. You just see a little bit of a lift on the throttle. Just trying to keep the weight on the nose as the car's been sort of rotated. Nice and tight in on the wall. A little bit left to play there. Could have been a bit better, but the run through here was actually pretty good. You can just see consistent throttle. I'm not on and off the throttle. Okay, so I can teach you anything. That's the big one. nice and consistent, smooth throttle inputs through that type of section, because if you're on and off, it's changing the weight of the car. So it's putting weight on the nose, putting weight on the rear. That changes how the car rotates. So if you can keep the throttle consistent, then you can understand what the car needs from a steering input point of view, to be able to get the car through here pretty well. Again, once it took a little long to get back to the throttle where I wanted to. You just see I was a little unhappy. You can actually see steering input wise right about there. I just put a little bit more steering lock into the car. I just felt like it wasn't rotating, but it's the importance of just being patient on the throttle. If I had to pick up the throttle earlier, I would have put it in the fence, or I would have had to fully lift out to save it off the fence. So that's what I mean by just being patient and just waiting until the car is happy doing what it needs to do. Down into here, a lot of time to be made and lost on entry and exit here. So braking around the foreboard just before, so call it 450. Pretty big brake application. Unprofessional. Yeah, pretty big brake application. Go down to third gear here for me. And you sort of, for me, I'm aiming to get the car in around that 100 board, but get across the curb. So you can see really good rotation there. Now, I did have a bit of a look at some data. This is just a replay file because I didn't have time to do the video last night, but I had a quick look at data. So this is a good example of, you could see how the car rotates really well in. You just watch it slowly. Car's good, car's good, car's good, and bang, right there. You can just see. Now, that was just a little bit of extra trail pressure. It's very minimal, but I actually slowed the car down too much here, which is why you'll see on exit I left a fair bit of room to the wall. So I was about 6 k's an hour slower at apex here on this lap, on my best lap, versus my previous lap that I did that was probably going to be about 2.5 tenths quicker than this. And a lot of that time was actually gained and lost here. So finding that rhythm that you can get back on the throttle, hit the apex, and float the car to the wall. So you can just see it's really narrow. So you just want to be able to maximize that exit all the way out to the wall. So not much, but it's quite interesting that you can always look at your own data and look at different laps inside of your own data to find. I think in VRS you've got the option for your perfect lap, your optimal lap, and your best lap, and all that stuff. It's kind of cool to go look at your optimal versus your best lap, or your perfect lap versus your best lap, because you will find some little subtleties in your data that you might be able to understand why your perfect lap or your optimal lap is like so much further ahead. You should try and have your optimal and your best lap as close as possible, obviously. But yeah, so just a touch slow here at apex, not a big deal, but it did cost a fair bit of time there. Now this next bit is probably the next high commitment piece. So certainly get the car out wide. Now you could run the car in on the limiter in fourth, with just a bit of a lift to, I guess, look after the car a bit, or pop it up into fifth. I went to fifth on this lap. I don't know what the right or wrong answer is here. It's what I did. Fifth gear, get the car in nice and tight on the wall. And you can see it's just a throttle lift. A little bit of trail there. You're only talking maybe 10, 15%, just to get a bit of weight on the nose on that weight transition. And then monster the curb. Now, I don't have it because there's a replay file, but if you get your right side onto the leading edge of this curve, you'll meet the outside wall fairly quick. Or if you don't, you're going to have a hell of a spin and a decent shunt. So you definitely want to, as you tip the car in, you want to maximize it, but just try and avoid getting the right side tires on that curve. Now, I make a pretty solid mistake here. So you see I picked up a lot of throttle again, which was fine, but I just carried it a little too long. So I probably should have just balanced that throttle. This is what I talk about getting on and off the throttle. I should have just been a little bit more linear, a little bit nicer on the throttle. Reason being, just carried a touch too much speed in. I didn't get my downshifts done properly, and I lock front right into here. So this cost me roughly about a tenth and a half. So if you go back to a couple of corners ago, there was a tenth and a half there. Looking at my data, and there was about a tenth and a half here. So yeah, lap time should have been a low 13, but it's what it is. And it's like I always say, it's good to show the errors so that you can learn from them. But yeah, so definitely carried just a smidge too much in, and then turning the car back, as I always say, try not to do. I turned the car back with a fair bit of pedal pressure on it. So it's what it is. I didn't get my downshifts done well enough. Got to second gear quite late, and then panicked and went to third gear again pretty quick. So I am using third gear on exit here. But the good line is certainly not this. You want to get the car onto the curb, a little bit like, which corner was it? There was a corner earlier. That left-hander in the middle there before you get to the tight right. So you want to try and just get the car right side up on the curb. A little too wide. A little too wide here. And you see I'm braking and just understeering. Look at the freaking, I'm leaving percentages of tyres everywhere here. So just wide all the way through. So nice and narrow. The only advantage to being wide here is that you actually have a monster run down the straight, because the car's so wide. You have a wide exit, narrow exit, I guess, with plenty of throttle on board. But even that wasn't the case on this one. So nice and tight. I usually go to third gear about here. Data input shows I went a little bit early on this lap, but that is what it is. So yeah, definitely pick up throttle. Third gear, you can see it's just arguing a little bit the whole time, and then finally back to full throttle there. So if you get that run right through that last corner and a little bit more narrow, you can square the car up nicely and get off the corner a bit better. You should be on the throttle, full throttle, probably another 10, 15 meters back. But yeah, and then it's just up through the gears, short ratio, obviously. So just remember to hit your shift points. Don't hang it on the limiter. Get your shifts done nice and early. Don't dick around with it too much. Yeah, it'll make a difference, because short ratio limiter equals slow car. But yeah, so it's going to be a very challenging track to race. We all know that. Be careful, I guess, you want to give drivers room, as we just talked about, into that bit there. But don't sacrifice too much track width to be nice, if that makes sense. You want to give drivers space, yes, but this is the type of track that you're just going to put yourself on the wall and cause a pretty big accident. So, think about how you're racing people, and maximising your own race. But yeah. Hot lap pace is going to be critical from a qualifying standpoint, because qualifying is going to be so important. But I can't stress enough that just do 10 lap race runs. Just bang, bang, bang. Just pop them out. It will make a significant difference to your overall pace. Because if you can keep that delta time as close to your best time, then you're going to have a pretty solid night. So yeah, thanks guys. Hope you're enjoying, and who knows where we are next week, but we'll chuck another video up. Good on you guys. Thank you.